Okay, good. So we have a quorum. We can get going. It is 6 o'clock on May 11th. I am calling to order the Finance Committee meeting, and I will start with a roll call going around on the tiles. Brian Taylor.
Here.
Myself, Mary Hartman here. Dee Ortner.
Here.
John Hickling.
Here.
Andrea Zoll.
Here.
Kathy Cuoccolo.
Here.
Wade Rubenstein.
Here.
Lois Wassoff.
Here.
Dean Banfield.
Here.
Ray Andrews.
Here.
Great. Okay, good. Let's see how much we can get done before the hearing. The first thing on our agenda is to review and vote on the recommendations. So we need to circle back and discuss and vote on our recommendations for some of the warrant articles that we deferred from our first hearing. And they are, I'm looking at the list here. They are items 5, 6, 9, and
8.
No, we actually voted affirmative action for that one.
Okay.
Yes. So it's 5, 6, 9, and
17.
I have 17 written as deferred also.
Yeah, I do too.
Are we looking at?
yes, you're right. Thank you. Good. Good. So it's 5, 6, 9, 17.
Mary,
Good.
you're using last meeting's agenda?
No, the meeting before,
No,
April 20.
429, the 429 meeting.
429, okay. Thank you.
right. So at the end of that public hearing, we voted affirmative action for most of the articles, and then 4 of them we deferred because we thought we might need to have more discussion. So the first 2 are item. I'm going to lump together 5 and 6. And before we talk about 5 and 6, I just want to let the committee know that there's another article, Article 7, that's on the warrant for town meeting that is sponsored by the Personnel Board. And that article is asking actually for the dissolution of the Personnel Board and for those functions to be taken over by the town manager. And that was heard at a select board hearing. And that's a controversial article. And we are not going to take a position on that article. So what we're here tonight for is to decide what position we should take on Articles 5 and 6. And just as background, these are articles that we've recommended affirmative action on these for as far back as you can go. And in fact, I think they usually go on the consent calendar. So these go back pretty far. We recommend affirmative action. And I believe our thinking is we're recommending to the town that they ratify the recommendations of the Personnel Board. So we'll start with that. I'll open it up for discussion. Who would like to start?
Well, I'll start by just mentioning that there is some interplay between these articles and the Article 7, which is to basically dissolve the Personnel Board.
Yep.
And that interplay was described in our hearing as when the town manager makes HR decisions and creates either new classifications, upgrades for specific roles, etc. Those are temporary until ratified by town meeting. And so a person may be hired into a slot and there's some instability until they know that the position has been ratified, even though, as Mary pointed out, we do this quite routinely. There's not really been any pushback regarding this. So, the rationale behind dissolving that is that, that this prohibits the town manager from making, honest and full decisions that are they're going to stick. And I don't see any reason why we would be debating these in as a standalone pair. My vote is that I move that we vote affirmative action on these 2 articles. So we can have discussion if we get a second.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. before I take a vote on that motion, or before we have any more discussion, Chris, can you see Christine in the waiting room at all? Because I know she was trying to get in earlier.
No, she's not in there yet. I'll send her an invite now.
I had to scrabble around a little to get the right link. There was something that I clicked on that I thought was the correct agenda, but it didn't give me the right link right away. So there's a possibility that she's looking around on an agenda with the wrong link.
She's trying to get in now. I'm gonna wait a minute and just see if Chris has anything she wants to say before I take a vote.
In which case, has anyone got any good jokes? Priest
Yeah,
walks into a
Joe,
bar.
My computer froze partway through the last two hearings. I had a window that said your internet is unstable. So I went to my husband's computer in the other room and it was fine. I have no idea what that means.
Do you use the internet provided by Light Plant, Andrew?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
I've had that unstable message a lot, and I am concerned that it may be the result of the quality of the connection that I get, but I don't.
Yeah, my son got it a lot from the Light Plan, and he did switch. But no, I've never had this before.
Here's Christine.
There she is, great.
Hey,
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Christine. Good, I'm glad you're in. Christine, just to give you an update, we have a motion for 5 and 16, or was it just 5?
5 and 6.
5
Yep,
and 6.
to
We have
the-
a
to
motion.
the affirmative action.
And it was seconded by Phil Swain, and I'm opening it up for discussion. If you have anything you'd like to say before I take a vote.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, I'll go around and take a vote. Brian Taylor?
But I have
Oh, wait.
under discussion,
Okay, go ahead.
under discussion, I still don't understand why we are taking this up. I have no objection to it personally, but there is no money involved in these. And I understand the situation of Article 5. But at the same time, I just don't think it is the Finance Committee's responsibility to weigh in on these.
I kind of actually differ with that, Dee. The classification and compensation plan, it involves how people are paid and what they are paid. And as such, it's a financial matter for the town. And since we have a board whose charge it is to kind of manage this, I think it is our responsibility to sort of weigh in and say, how does this, even though we have from time immemorial approved of their action, it does impact, the budgeting of the town, how much we have to pay employees. So, which is represent about 80% of our budget. 70 to 80% of our budget is personnel costs.
So I would agree with that, Dean, particularly Article 6, which is, the gift that keeps on giving, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So
But what do we do? Do we really have any meaningful discussion about it?
Wrong with me?
Wait, Kathy had her hand up. Go ahead.
Dean, I don't understand the financial implication if we have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
They're giving us a job grade with a midpoint max. They're not telling us whether it went up or down from the last one. Yes, the only way I see us knowing what the town spends on these salaries is when we get the budget in the aggregate. So, I mean, if they.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with one bit, Kathy. In other words, it would be nice to have some history to see like this grade, last year or 2 years ago, this is the range it was in, that was in this great range last year. And this year we're asking to move it to this range. We would at least be able to see it. What are we doing? What are we, but the reporting isn't really a characteristic of the action. The action actually does have something to do with the town's finances. And we could certainly ask for better reporting, and I think that would be wise. I mean, it would be nice to have a little bit of a trend to see, at a minimum, how much is this moving up from the previous year's classification ranking? You know, that would be nice. It would be fantastic.
And I'm particularly interested in how the town is doing on managing, pay equity, reviewing to make sure that, equal pay for equal work. So
We were told that at the last meeting, that I believe, and I haven't done the analysis, but I believe it was a straight factor across all pay grades.
Right.
That's what we were
2%.
told. It was a multiplier.
so like 2% or 2.5%.
Right.
Yeah, like
2%.
not a lot of thought and analysis went into what the town is putting in front of us, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in the end, the line that we always get is, this does not affect what individual people are paid. It just makes sure that their category is in a range. Like, some people may, if the range moves up 2%, if they were at the very bottom, they may get a pay raise as a result of this action, but ultimately it affects very few people in the end. The town manager makes his decisions on pay increases independently of this thing.
Ray, you had your hand up for a while.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If a senior person leaves and a lower grade person takes the position, that it seems to affect things. And without a total, it does seem like we're, I don't know, it's window dressing. It feels like, I go with Kathy, that it's, what are we approving here is not substantive. It's sort of form, it seems like.
To me, I think what we're approving here is we're recommending to the town that the work that the personnel board did and the research they did in order to go out and see what are the job classes that we need for the town and what is the adequate pay range for those classes, that we're ratifying the work that they did, or we're recommending to the town that they ratify the work that they did, so that we make sure that we stay competitive with the job, with our job classifications and with what we're paying people to work for the town. That was my thinking. Do I have anybody else?
So that's a really good thought, Mary. I would agree with that. I mean, I think I do agree that greater disclosure might be helpful, but beyond that, to your point, we would be getting, I think, too far in the weeds with decisions that need to be made with respect to what a competitive, job market is.
Right.
Okay, I'll take one more comment. Dee, what you had?
I was just going to suggest that you separate Article 5 and Article 6.
Why?
Because I think Article 5 has an immediate ramification. And apparently thought and action has gone into that, into the 4 items listed there. And I think it's different from what Article 6 presents.
I don't see that right now, so why don't you say more?
I don't have anything more to say.
Well, we have a motion on the table to recommend affirmative action for, I think, both of these articles. So let's go through and we have a second on that. So I'm going to take a vote on that. And if you want to separate them, I would recommend that you vote no. I'm going to go around, I think, discussion, I'm going to go around. Brian Taylor.
Yes.
Myself, Mary Hartman, yes. Dee Ortner?
Abstain.
John Hickling.
Yes.
Andrea Zoll.
Yes.
Kathy Kuokolo.
Yes.
Wade Rubenstein.
Yes.
Lois Wassoff.
Yes.
Dean Banfield.
Yes.
Ray Andrews.
I'll abstain too.
Okay. Phil Swain.
Yes.
Christine Reynolds.
Yes.
Parashar, are you listening or? No, Parashar's busy. Parashar's on another con call
Okay.
concurrent with this one, so. Okay, so let me go around and count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yeses, 2 abstains. Can I have a volunteer to recommend, a volunteer to write up the finance committee's position on this article?
Does this require any more than just a note that we
It requires no more than that.
affirmative action?
I'll volunteer.
I don't know that this
We'll
requires.
do
any
that,
more.
Wade. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
So Wade, let's do May 14th, please. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Article 9, the FY21 budget line item adjustment. Carrie, do you want to get us started on this and just give us a brief reminder of what this article is about, please?
So the town's budget, as you know, is approved in several different line items, and the town manager is responsible for balancing the budget to the individual line items as voted by town meeting. Occasionally, there are expenses that exceed those line items, and there are provisions in Mass General Law that allow for adjustments to the budget. And the two ways that adjustments are allowed are either through another town meeting action, which is what the article that is before you for consideration right now is, where you ask town meeting to make the transfer. The second is the year-end transfer process, which you're familiar with, which with the approval of the Finance Committee and the Select Board, transfers can happen at the end of the year between May 1st and July 15th. So because of the timing of town meeting this year, in past years, we've just used the year-end transfer process because town meeting is so much earlier at the beginning of April. But now that it's in June, it made sense to bring this to town meeting first for consideration, because I think the remedies that are provided under Mass General Law really are, town meeting is the first remedy, if that is available based on timetable, and the second is the year-end transfer process. So that's why we've put it up for town meeting. Hopefully town meeting will approve it. I will say, if for some reason town meeting didn't approve it, it would be our intention to bring it up for a year-end, through the year-end transfer process.
Thank you, Carrie. Any discussion?
So Carrie, just to clarify, this does not increase the total appropriation, and it does not increase FY21 spending. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's really just the town manager rejigging the numbers to add up to the existing appropriation as necessary.
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have a question for Carrie?
I do have a question for Carrie. Carrie, do we know what buckets are going to be used for the transfers?
So I'm sorry, I don't have it up on my computer, but we had proposed moving some from general government and some from finance to legal services. I can pull up the exact numbers. And the reason that we have additional unspent, or we have unspent appropriation in both of those areas, really has to do with position vacancies.
Gotcha. Okay.
Lois?
Yeah, I guess this question is for Carrie. I'm comfortable with the article when I read the explanation, but the article itself seems kind of vague and unlimited. So it's not, I don't have a problem with what it is you're trying to accomplish, but I guess I'm confused about how the limitations you're describing are embodied in the current language of the article.
Okay, that's a good question. So the warrant article, because of the timing of when the warrant articles are due, it is intentionally vague, because at the time that we put the warrant article together, we weren't 100% sure of any and all adjustments that would be needed. At the time, we certainly knew when we put it together that there was a need for legal adjustment, but there were a couple of other line items that we thought might require adjustment, but did not end up requiring adjustment. And most of that has to do with understanding the COVID grants that were available to us, because the other over expenditures really were COVID related. But it's through the actual motion that is put forward at town meeting that specifies the exact language, like where the transfers, where it's coming from, where it's going to. And so in the, you probably don't have the presentation up in front of you, but
No, I'm looking at the,
at the warrant article itself. But the presentation included the motion, and the motion is to transfer $40,000 from line item 1, general government, and $150,000 from line item 3, finance, for a total of $190,000 appropriated under the budget article to line item 2, legal services. So that's where we have the motion. I mean, the warrant article sometimes can be fairly vague, so that you don't preclude any action that you might need, but it's the motion itself that is very specific.
okay, thank you.
Any other, Phil?
Yes, so I think we should approve this, but this is about the third, maybe the fourth year in a row that the legal budget has exceeded or the legal spending has exceeded the budget by a couple $100,000. The reason I think we should approve it now is because this is the right way to do it. In the past, they've come to us at the end of the year and basically said to the finance committee, well, we spent more money. If you don't approve it, we're gonna be shirking our bills and it'll affect our credit rating. So this way, we can get them to explain that to the town meeting. The select board and the town manager can answer questions about it, and they can manage it. And the only other thing I'll say is, since we're in litigation, we should be asking for budgets and budgeting appropriately, and not continuing to have to add money to the legal budget every year. We should just tell everybody if it's going to be $600,000 next year, then let's just budget for that. But I think we should support this one.
Thank you, Phil. Kathy?
I apologize. I am lost, Carrie. I have the warrant in front of me. And Article 9 says to vote to amend appropriations made under Article 10. Article 10 has the full town budget by department. There's nothing,
Last year's.
there's
It's
nothing in here that's
Kathy,
just,
it's last year's. It's asking to amend last year's Article 10.
Yeah, so last year's Article 10 was
Last
the
year's
full town
Article
budget.
10.
And
See,
now we're saying we need to amend the way last year's budget was presented to have numbers in different buckets. So
It's not this year's Article 10.
no, but it's still, last year's Article 10 was likely the town budget. I mean,
Yes,
we're amending the town budget from the previous year.
Dan and company. Yes, there's columns here that say fiscal 2020, and it says fiscal 2021, and proposed 2022. But what I'm saying is, I'm hearing that there's just this focus on legal expenses, but Article 10 has the full budget. It doesn't, there's not anything specific to legal expenses.
Yeah.
Am I asleep?
no.
No.
No, you're talking in your sleep, but no,
No,
you're
you-
not asleep. Go ahead, Lois.
I think you're having some of the same confusion about this that I did, but as I understood Carrie's explanation, there were a couple of things that they knew they'd need to move, but they didn't want to be specific and call out those line items in the language of this article because given the timing of when the warrant needed to be printed for our purposes now, and the timing at the time the town meeting will actually occur, other things might have come up that required them to make some adjustments. So that's what she was saying. As a practical matter, the adjustments that will be made for fiscal 20 will probably be legal budget and a couple of the other items that Carrie mentioned. But the article was drafted to avoid being too specific so that there could be responsiveness to changes. So I don't have a problem with that.
I'm sorry, that still doesn't make any sense to me because there are titles, wait a second, there's titles to expenses and there's dollar amounts. So when it says to determine whether the town will vote to amend appropriations, I think I read that as making a change in dollar amounts.
But
That's correct.
the dollar amount
Correct?
was
Okay.
approved a year ago.
In your head. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
You're correct.
So the dollar amounts that are printed here,
No, of what was the dollar amounts of what was approved a year ago at last town meeting. The actual numbers here don't necessarily match up. So this is a way of making, and Carrie, jump in when I've said this wrong.
No.
Yeah, Kathy, the middle column, if you're looking at Article 10 in the warrant book, the middle column that says fiscal 2021 appropriation,
yes.
that is the same as last year's budget. So you can refer to that column for Article 9. And the motion under Article 9 is going to amend. So if you're looking at the middle column, item 1, the total is 3,730,052.
Where is it? 3 million?
You see the subtotal under line item 1 in the 2021 column.
Yeah, item 1 says starts with 1A town manager.
Yes, but if you follow that down to subtotal.
Yep.
And for fiscal 2021, the subtotal is 3,730,052.
Yes.
So that's that amount. We're asking to reduce that amount by $40,000. Then we're asking to reduce, if you go down to finance, subtotal $2,423,049.
Mm-hmm.
We're asking to reduce that by $150,000. And then we're asking to add those two amounts for a total of $190,000 to line item 2, which the subtotal is $344,585, and we're looking to add $190,000 to that.
And so that will be explained at the town meeting. It's not explained here in the book.
It was, well, hopefully it was explained during the public hearing.
Okay.
Right.
So to, I forget who brought it up. Maybe it was Ray. But we're going to have controversy over legal expenses again.
Bill brought that up.
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because we have legal expenses involved in this, it could turn into a broader discussion. My opinion is that this is a housekeeping article, which every year we're going to underspend in some line items and overspend in others, and we're simply transferring money from one to the other. And it's not a referendum on the legal expenses, and we want to avoid that.
Thank you. Thank you all for being patient with me.
That's fine, Kathy. Go ahead, Dee.
Yeah, I have a question for Carrie. Carrie, if this motion does not pass, what happens?
If it doesn't pass, then we will bring it back to you at a future finance committee meeting.
Before the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, or at the very beginning of July, depending on when your meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let's think that through. If that doesn't pass, then what happens then, Carrie?
So if that doesn't pass, then we close the year. We have no choice but to close the year with a deficit in the legal line item, which, as I've mentioned before, it's not a deficit that we are allowed to have. So we would be required to raise it on the recap. in the following year. And that means adding it to the tax bill.
So Carrie, if that was a deficit, wouldn't you then have surpluses in these other accounts that would offset the deficit?
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do here, but we're,
But if you close the fiscal year with assets and liabilities, don't they net to zero?
You're not allowed to move them around, Kathy, without approval from either the town meeting or from us and the select board. They can't just move things from bucket
Okay, so
one
that's-
into bucket two.
okay,
It's
so
not,
that's why
it's
Carrie-
not like a business. You can't do it that way. They have to get approval to, and it's not like schools. Schools can move it all around without requiring any kind of approval either.
So when you say, Carrie, you would bring it back to us if it doesn't get approved, then we get to approve it as the finance committee?
and then it would need to go to the select board.
Okay,
Or we could move approval of Article 9 right now.
I'd entertain a motion.
So
So
moved.
move.
Second,
Second,
any more discussion? Okay, go around. Christine Reynolds,
Yes.
myself, Mary Hartman, yes. Dee Ortner,
Yes.
John Hickling,
Yes.
Andrea Zoll. Andrea, you're muted. I think I saw, if I read lips, you said yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Kwokolo,
Yes.
Wade Rubenstein,
Yes.
Lois Wassoff,
Yes.
Dean Banfield,
yes.
Ray Andrews,
Yes.
Phil Swain,
Yes.
Brian Taylor,
Yes.
Parashar Patel,
Yes.
Dick Jameson.
Yes.
It's unanimous and the chair so declares. Who would like to write up the explanation for this? It should be short. They all should be short, actually. So I have a volunteer. Wade,
I'll add it to my next one.
thank you, Wade.
That's
Thank
easy.
Were you adjusting your camera, Wade, or did you volunteer?
Don't scratch your head when I ask for volunteers. Okay. Okay, the last one we need to tackle before tonight's hearing is the appropriation funds for affordable housing. This is the town is asking for $500,000 from free cash to go to the affordable housing. I believe not to the trust fund, but to go to CHDC.
This item 17.
It is.
Article
It is, Dick. D.
I make a motion to approve Article 17 as written.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
So this appropriation, is this to purchase housing?
Mhm.
It's not really specified, but it would probably be used for buy downs for affordable housing.
Right.
So I do need a clarification on this one, if I could get it. And that is, we have approved these $500,000 expenditures from free cash. This, I think, is our third time around with this process.
You're right.
And my understanding was that each time we did this, they were to be, as stated here, they were to be expended under the direction of the town manager, because we were in a holding pattern waiting for this trust to be established, which we did last year at town meeting.
That's
So I
correct.
think we're still pending the establishment of the correct board membership or something. I don't think it's quite there yet.
That's
So
correct.
how is it that we are discussing having this go directly to CHDC? I was under the impression that this is the same process that we've been in for the last 2 years. So that's why, that's my question.
Well, you know, it's funny because how is it written in here? Because when I asked that of Linda, I thought she said it was the CHDC that was getting this, but now I might have
It
Heard
says
her.
right here, including transferring to the funds to the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I mean, it's right in the warrant. So I feel like if we're going to the CHDC with it, it's sort of it's outside the language here.
Okay, then I think I misspoke. I don't think this is, I mean, I think I heard that, but
Okay.
It's
Thanks.
not, it goes to the town manager and eventually to the municipal affordable housing trust fund when that is established.
Well, it has been established.
No, the municipal housing, the municipal affordable housing trust fund has not been established.
I think
It
the
has
fund
not?
has been established. I think the board has not been
It has
named.
to do with
Right.
appointing a board member.
So-
We voted it, but it hasn't been actually set up.
I thought the town manager had discretion to spend it as necessary. And
That's
Terry,
correct.
I'm wondering, do you know, is there a balance of 1 million already, or where does the account actually stand?
That's a great question. Okay, we voted 500,000 2 years in a row. And out of that 500,000, 700,000 is still available. And also I'd like to point out that the CPC is in their article, they're allocating 233,000 to affordable housing. So between the 700 and the 233, we're already close to $1 million in a fund right now that the town manager has discretion on spending that until the municipal affordable housing trust fund is actually seated and established.
And where did the 300,000 go?
I think that was for 2 units, 2 buy downs within Concord.
Okay.
So it's expensive. Christine.
Yeah, so I'm not in support of this. I'm okay with affordable housing, but I think this coming back to the town every year, coming through CPC for $500,000, and I think what they actually need is a fair amount of money. I think they need millions of dollars to actually make a dent in what they want to do. And this, so I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't feel like it has a budget to me. I'd rather them come and say, we're going to need this much money. Some of it's going to be funded from CPC. Someone's going to come from this tariff we're going to place on buildings. Some of it may come from free cash. But I'd like to see a budget and a plan rather than $500,000 a year for whatever houses we can find. So it feels a bit ad hoc to me. So I'm not a fan of this.
Any other comments? Ray?
Yeah. As I understand it, the principal, well, the 233 from the CPC is to be held by CHDC, which I think is a little strange. That's more than they have in their budget, in their account now, but that's a little bit confusing to me. But the idea of accumulating funds is so that they can act when the opportunities occur, whether it's the Giroux land or whether it's, buy down or whether it's a piece of property that becomes available and the cycles of town meeting and so forth is too long to take advantage of that. So they're trying to accumulate funds for that purpose, Christine.
No, I understand. I would like to know how much they're looking to accumulate, right? It doesn't, so they haven't ever really said, right? They haven't, I think they didn't, when they put the original warrant in for this, the tax that's going to go on buildings, they didn't even provide the rate or how much they thought they were going to get from that. So I would like more certainty about it. I understand what they're trying to do, but I think they need to build a war chest to do this. And I think they should say that as opposed to coming back for $500,000. And we don't have a lot in free cash. So
Right.
those things both make me say I'm going to be a no on it.
And I agree with Christine on this. I'm just curious to know, in the previous years, I don't recall, Dean, maybe you might have your finger on this. Did they ever talk about a cap? Just in terms of where they were trying to get, like what the bogey actually was?
To my understanding, their goal is to have an annual flow. And right now, since there is no source of that, there's no building permit, assessment, and there's nothing on a house sale, which are the two pieces of stuff that have to go through the State House, which would create an annual flow. They're trying to sort of cobble that together with these annual appropriations out of free cash. This is a substitute for what they want to get to, which is truly an annual flow of funds into affordable housing for the community. I just one comment on the CPC appropriation. I was on the CPC for several years, and CHDC does come back and they have a program that they really do want to desperately fund, and that's called small repairs and, stuff, so that people who are in an affordable situation can do things like buy a new range or put in some insulation, modest repairs that are not like buying a house, but they call it a small repair program. And some of that 230 may be used for something like that. I'm not entirely
That
sure.
was
You
not the
can comment on
discussion.
that.
That was not the discussion at CPC.
No, it
That
was not. Okay.
No, it was not. This was for the same thing that we're talking about with this 500,000. It was for buying houses.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that seems like it's in two pots then. That seems a little unusual.
Dee?
I have a question for Carrie. Carrie, if this municipal affordable housing trust fund has been established, do you have any information in terms of when it will be operational?
So we have not yet created the trust fund. It's my understanding that just in the last several weeks, we finally received approval from the AG's office on that particular article. And our intention would be to close the year with that fund established. But right now, we have not created the separate fund. We just have that money segregated in the individual warrant articles.
So wait a second. When are you hoping to establish that? By the end of this fiscal year? By July 1st?
That we would close the year with that fund established at least within our ledger. Now, I'm not.
It's not, but do we have, yeah.
Stephen is here and maybe could comment on the board itself, but just from the accounting standpoint, we would close the year with that new fund established.
Okay. Stephen, can you tell us about seating the board and the timing of that?
Sure. I think 3, potentially 4 board members have been appointed. And we haven't called a meeting yet, but I do think that that's something that's going to be happening in the near future. I truthfully have to check in with Select Board Chair Linda Escobedo on that to see if we want to set up a kickoff meeting for that task for the trust fund committee. We do have the funds that are currently appropriated to the town manager that would go under the purview of that committee once it's established. So that would happen. And then there was a couple of home rule petitions related to building permits and transfer fees. One of local impact, one of statewide impact, with the local building permit fee and the transfer fee, which is more statewide issue. Those home rule petitions, the home rule petition for the building fee has been refiled. And so we're just kind of waiting for that to work through the process. I think the transfer fee legislation did get refiled, but I do know that is really because that's really something of statewide significance, that's taking a different path through the legislature. And so I'm not sure we'll see that, but I agree with Carrie. I think at some point in time in the coming months, we will have the Affordable Housing Trust Committee empaneled and starting to work on oversight of those appropriations.
Thank you. Parashar, I have your hand up.
Yeah, two questions. One is, what are the implications of us or the town not passing this, other than it sounds like the trust fund would start with a smaller base? Is that correct? There's no other implications, right?
Is that a question to me, Parashar?
Yeah, I guess to you.
Yeah, right? Sure. I think, this is going to sound a little editorial, but it's not intended that way. I think one of the implications is it would not be in the furtherance of one of the town's long-range plan goals of the creation of affordable housing. And I think, as I've said before, one of the things that if you look at some of the actions that have been taken for affordable housing, whether it's rights of first refusal or buying down a unit or something, each time you do one, it's expensive because of the value of real estate here in Concord. And so I know just from my own involvement, there are a few kind of opportunities kind of circling around us, but they're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars each potentially. And to either create or preserve affordable units is something that is a constant need. And there are always opportunities coming up. I mean, people we have rights of first refusal on a number of units. Somebody just decides to move, then we have a decision to make, and we would need those resources. And so I think the net effect, if you will, is that it would limit our ability to be able to do that in accordance with the long range plan.
And just a follow-up question, it goes along with, I think, what Christine was after. Have we identified top 10, 12, 15 potential units where we'd want to step in, or is this, because we had $1 million, we've only spent about 330, and so it's unclear to me whether it's a lack of opportunities or like why we haven't spent more, if that's
I think we had spent 330, but then I think we just spent an amount on top of. I thought the 330 was what we went into the discussion about a unit in the Emerson Annex on, and so I thought that was on top of the 330, but I could have my numbers wrong on that. But there are a number of units that either through the RHO or through CHDC that we're hearing about. It takes, Parish, sometimes it takes something to be ready for our involvement. And sometimes it never happens. And I know there's a separate group a separate committee. I think it's an ad hoc committee that has been working on identifying potential sites for affordable housing. I know I was recently contacted by a community representative about that, and I haven't been able to connect with them, but I do think that there's also a group that's looking to identify sites to move forward on opportunities.
You mean to build, Stephen?
I don't want to say build or renovate, Mary, because I haven't had the conversation with them. But, like I said, I think until we have a dedicated revenue stream, and this is my personal belief, I do believe that these are good investments. These appropriations are good investments until we do have a dedicated revenue stream.
I'm going to take two more comments and then I'm going to move on. Wade, go ahead.
So, yeah, I'm generally in support of this. I just wonder if the two home rule petitions come through, do we have a sense of how much projected revenue they would generate? I think we passed it as a town back in 2017, I believe, but I don't remember what those projections were. Do we know what those are?
Unfortunately, Wade, I don't know off the top of my head.
Now, Ray Andrews was on that committee, right?
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember what those projections were for the building permit surcharge and the transfer fee?
I have a very thick 3-ring binder that I could probably get back to you with the answer on that over the next day or two. Well, actually, by the end of the week. But there was a range in both cases. I think the percentage on a house on a transfer and the percentage on the permits. There was a range in both cases. So there was no firm number as far as the.
Because I guess it gets to Christine's point is I think when the first ask came, I recall it was $200,000, not $500,000.
No, it's $500,000.
No, it was $500,000 the first time it was voted.
Was it?
I was on that committee and we presented.
So we've been asking for $500,000 for like the last 3 years.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
D. Are you done? Wade?
Yep.
Your question? Okay, great. D.
Yeah, Stephen, do you anticipate that this will be the last year for a $500,000 ask in a warrant article?
Stephen, that question was to you.
Sorry, I just got Andrea's message about the internet connection being unstable. So I don't know if I missed a question there. I'm sorry.
Do you want to repeat your question?
Yes, Stephen, do you anticipate that this will be the last ask of a $500,000 as a warrant article?
I don't know. I think the answer is D. It depends. Do I think that there will need to be appropriations of some amount to supplement any revenue we generate through the building permit fee, which I think is the more likely revenue source to be approved in the near term? Probably so. What that amount is, I don't really know.
Thank you.
I think. Can I just make another comment, Mary, and then I'll mute myself again or freeze, depending on what my computer decides to do in that moment. I do think that there is a worthwhile discussion of, is there a ceiling for how much should be set aside? And I do understand that there is some expectation that if we're appropriating this money, we should be using it. And so like I said, I have a number of things on the radar screen that we're trying to sort through what's the best value for that money. And so I do know that there are ways in which we'll be able to expend some of this appropriation, but I agree with the sentiment, which is there a limit to how much we should really be setting aside? And I think that that's a conversation that is a financial and housing discussion.
I would like to see more being done around other things besides just buy downs. And I know Linda mentioned some other things that we were doing, and maybe zoning bylaws or whatever, but just spending money on buy downs is a very expensive way to get every unit. And I'm worried about that, spending taxpayers' money for that. But I
agree with you.
I agree with Christine that I really would like to see a plan going forward instead of dribs and drabs, a real plan about, how many buy downs, what are other means do we have to get more diverse housing stock. And so I tend to agree with that. Brian, did I see your hand up? I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's top of the hour here. I just wanted to have a question. If this does not pass, what are the implications with this?
Who wants to answer that?
Well, I think it's.
Steve, I was actually kind of just thinking, Stephen, you might have some perspective here. So maybe if I could ask you.
Yeah, no, I think it's like I was just talking to Parashar about. I think the implication is there may be opportunities that are good values that we don't get to do because we've programmed. Now, I think I know it seems so far fetched that we would have all the funds we have in hand committed, but I can tell you that with the things that are kind of floating out there, I could easily see it all being obligated. But the other thing is you want to retain a little bit in hand for when an opportunity comes up to potentially subsidize a larger development and get instead of doing one-off buy downs, as Mary suggested, which I agree it's not a very efficient way to do it. And so I think the net effect is it would hamper the town's abilities to further its affordable housing goals. And that's a policy thing, not a Brian, not a direct kind of, cost benefit. But that's how I view it. That's the net effect.
No, I appreciate that. I guess I was just really curious to know if there was a deal happening now where this money would be helpful or impact that transaction, because I do think I think a little more thought needs to be placed around how this is getting structured and what we're actually doing. Because I agree with you. I think we need to have a more robust conversation around what the cap is on this. So wondering if we could pause. If we do pause and vote no, what is there a direct impact right now? And I appreciate your comment.
I'll take one more quick question. Dean.
I'm just going to say I'm disinclined to vote for this. Primary reason is that it's a drain on free cash that I would prefer not to be using this year for this because of the state of our free cash. But the second reason that I'm really disinclined to vote for this year is that we went through this sort of high pressure vote to get Junction Village over the line. And that has taken some of the pressure off of our affordable housing goals. So, if we pass this year, I don't think it would be the end of the world, because we're under this huge gun to make sure we're at 10%. We have some money in the bank that we can take opportunities as they come along. But if we were to pass this year, I don't think it's, I don't think it's really going to be a, terrible situation. That's me.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor for affirmative action on this article. And I'm going to go around and take a vote by looking at my screen. Parashar Patel.
Yes.
Myself, Mary Hartman, no. Brian Taylor.
No.
Dee Ortner.
Yes.
John Hickling.
No.
Andrea Zoll.
No.
Kathy Cuoccolo.
No.
Wade Rubenstein.
Yes.
Lois Wassoff.
No.
Dean Banfield.
No.
Ray Andrews.
Yes.
Let me see, I'm looking. Phil Swain.
No.
Christine Reynolds,
No.
Dick Jameson,
No.
and I think that's it. So what I've got here is I've got 10 no's and 4 yeses, so the motion fails. Do I have a volunteer to write up the Christine, thank you. Thank you very much. Also, Christine, we might be invited by the town moderator to present at town meeting our position. Would you be willing to do that as well?
Sure.
Great, thank you. Very good, very good. Okay, people, it is 6:59. I need to switch to the hearing. Can I entertain a motion to open this meeting up for the public hearing? Let's move on to our Finance Committee agenda, and I think if we just power through here, we can get out of here and, well, it depends on you guys. So let's.
A good thing we all ate our Wheaties.
Okay. We are back to reviewing the articles that we just heard tonight. So in the interest of time, I would like to go over these articles and ask, as we go down them, if anyone wants to discuss them, we'll pull them off. Otherwise, they will stay on a consent calendar for an affirmative action recommendation. So number 18, do we need to discuss? 19, do we need to discuss?
Mary, could you just go, just for the sake of the record, just say what they are as well as you go down them?
I will,
Thank
Greg.
you. Thank you.
Okay, 18 is the senior means tested property tax exemption. 19 is the appropriation for the senior means tested tax exemption. That's in case it doesn't pass. 20 is the light plant expenditure and payment in lieu of taxes. Do we need to defer that? Okay, we're good. 21 is solid waste disposal fund expenditures. 22 is sewer system expenditures. 23, sewer improvement fund expenditures. 24, water system expenditures. 25, authorized expenditures for PEG access and cable related fund. And finally, this is the first one we saw, Article 26, Beatty Swim and Fitness Center Enterprise Fund expenditures. Okay. Do I have a motion to recommend affirmative action on these articles?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I have a second. Great. I'll go around. Parashar Patel.
Yes.
Myself, Mary Hartman, yes. Dee Ordner.
Yes.
Wade Rubenstein.
Yes.
Kathy Cuoccolo.
Yes.
Ray Andrews.
Yes.
Dick Jameson.
Yes.
Christine Reynolds.
Yes.
Brian Taylor.
Yes.
Andrea Zoll.
Yes.
Dean Banfield.
Yes.
Lois Wassoff.
Yes.
Greg Guriello.
Yes.
Bill Swain.
Yes.
It's unanimous and the chair so declares. I need to assign people to make brief write-ups for the FinCom report. The first one, which is the senior means tested property tax exemption. You know who I'm going to call her John Hickling for that. So he's not here. I will try to get John. If John doesn't want to do it, I will do it. The next one is the appropriation for the senior means tested tax exemption. Again, I'm going to ask John to do that since he helped these committees. This isn't just random on my part. He has helped and worked with these committees over the years. So I think he'll be able to do this in short order. The light plant expenditure. We have actually, I think we have 2 observers there. We've got Ray and
I'll do that. Yeah.
You'll do that, Ray? Thank you. Solid waste.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Phil. Sewer. How about water and sewer all together?
I'll do water and sewer and any other public works enterprise things.
Thank you. So that's going to be, if I'm looking at this, Phil, you signed up for 21, 22, 23, and 24. Thank you. Okay, PEG access. Do I have a volunteer to write something for the PEG access?
when are these due, Mary?
We'd like to have them by this Friday.
I have to beg out then. I'm sorry.
We can give you an extension.
Can I get it in next week, seriously?
Yes, you can get
Okay.
it.
I'll do that. I'll do 25.
Thank you, Parashar. And last but not least, the Beatty Center.
That's probably mine.
It is yours, Dick. Thank you very much. Okay, good. If you can get them in by this Friday, that would be great. But if you can't, the real drop dead date is the middle of next week. Okay, good. Okay, what else is on our agenda? Okay, next thing on our agenda is the nomination of the slate of officers. Okay, I've had some conversations with several of you. And then the slate of officers that we'd like to nominate for the next fiscal year would be the chair, Christine Reynolds, the guidelines chair, Parashar Patel, the clerk, John Hickling, and the second clerk would be Lois Wassoff. Any discussion? Can I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, good. I'm going to go around and take a vote again. Parashar Patel.
No.
Too late now.
Yes.
Thank you. Myself, Mary Hartman, yes. Dee Ortner,
Yes.
Wade Rubenstein,
Yes.
Kathy Kuokolo,
Yes.
Ray Andrews,
Yes.
Dick Jameson,
Yes.
Christine Reynolds,
Yes.
Brian Taylor,
Yes.
Andrea Zoll,
Yes.
Dean Banfield,
Yes.
Lois Wassoff,
Yes.
Greg Guriello,
Yes.
Bill Swain.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
I think Anita has a question, Mary.
Mary,
Anita,
just a quick question. When you said the first clerk and the second clerk, I'm assuming John would be clerk for the regular FinCom and then Lois for the guidelines? Is
Yes.
that what you intended?
that's what I
Okay.
meant. Thank you,
Yeah,
Anita.
okay,
Yes.
yeah.
While we're on this topic of who's going to be the officers for next year, I think this might be an appropriate time to recognize the people that are rolling off this year. Dick Jameson and Phil Swain are going to be rolling off the FinCom after many years of service. And I would like to take a minute to really recognize what you've done. Both of you have provided a good balance to the committee. You don't say a lot, but when you say something, we listen. I really appreciate that. And Phil, you went to bat for us many times and got, and I appreciate that, the times that you went to bat for us over the years. So both of you, we're gonna miss you. So thank you for your service. Next item on our agenda is the CMS update. Nothing happened, so I don't think we have anything to talk about. Dean, do you agree with me? They haven't met since the CMS, the middle school building committee has not.
I can't really communicate across this internet connection. I'm very sorry. Right now, it's just gone. Everybody's frozen. Hopefully you can hear what I'm saying, but I can't hear you guys. So I'm sorry. I don't even know what the question was.
Okay.
What was the question? Repeat the question, Mary. I'll try to answer it.
The question is, I don't think we have anything to report on the Concord Middle School Building Committee.
Forget it. I really, it's, the whole screen is frozen.
Oh, so that means forget it, the question, or forget it. Okay. I don't think we have anything to report.
You could type it into Q&A.
There has been no meeting since the last time we met. Stephen, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say, I could, as a member of the committee, I could offer, since Dean's not connecting with us, but I think you're right. I think since they took that important vote to compromise on the spaces, which unfortunately was not, I had to leave the meeting a little bit early. But if you have all met since that meeting, I do, you think that's correct. There's not been another meeting.
That's true. That is true. Okay.
Can I just, since I now know what the question was, I'll try to answer. Hopefully you guys can hear me because I can't hear most of what you say. The committee, the administration did concede a certain amount of square footage, 2 rooms that they desperately want to keep, but they said, well, we'll try to do those functions in other spaces. It's about 2,900 square feet. And they also agreed on certain sizing for the auditorium. And they're very close to the decision on the sizing for the gymnasium. Hopefully you guys could hear me.
Yes.
You can't,
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Those are the decisions. And it's highly likely that the budget will now go over 100 million. It is unlikely that the concessions that the administration has made will be enough to satisfy the voted desire for the sizing of the new spaces. So the budget is highly likely to go over. There's a little clause in the motion to give them the chance to look for opportunities, other opportunities, but it seems pretty narrow. So it's likely to go over 100 million.
Does anybody have any questions for Dean, if he could hear us? Okay, good. Let's move on.
Doesn't sound like it.
Does he
Okay,
get his internet through the light plant or through Comcast?
I do.
Through the
I
light
do.
plant.
And I during this meeting, I do get it from them, and I did send them a note saying I'm having a hearing about your service, and it's not working out so well.
You just froze like that, Dean. That is perfect. Okay.
Dean, they knew you were going to say that, so they are purposely
It's just
doing.
it's sad. It's sad.
Okay, moving right along for correspondences. I think we had 3 that I should probably address now. One was from Dory Keogh saying that she liked the second hearing we had. She thought that we had done a better job with the technology, so that was good to hear. We got an email, we got a correspondence from Mark Howell, which I think Mark was here tonight and he asked all the questions he wanted to ask about the broadband. And then we also had a correspondence from Brooks Reed reminding us about something that happened in the 2018 town meeting. That's all I have for correspondence. I'll open it up. If anyone's still awake, they'd like to make a public comment. Seeing none. I think we're in good shape. Everybody, don't forget all the work you have to do for the FinCom report. We've got to get that to the press. This has to go out before town meeting. It's important. It's the way the town, most of the people in town get to know the work that we do. So it's an important document, and Lois is working hard with us and Carrie to make it better this year. So other than that, I think anybody have anything they want to say, or we all set? Great. Okay. See you at town meeting then. Okay. Good night. Thank you.
Do we need a motion to
Good
adjourn?
night.
We do. We
Oh, do we need a
to
motion to close it down?
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Parashar Patel.
Yes.
Mary Hartman, yes. Dee Ortner.
Yes.
Wade Rubenstein.
Yes.
Kathy Cuoccolo.
Yes.
Ray Andrews.
Yes.
Dick Jameson.
Yes.
Christine Reynolds.
Yes.
Brian Taylor.
Yes.
Andrea Zoll. That I can't hear you, Andrea, but I think you're saying yes. Andrea, you're on mute.
Thumbs up. Go home.
She's tired. Okay, Dean Banfield.
Yes.
Lois Wassoff.
Yes.
Greg Guerriello.
Yes.
Bill Swain.
Yes.
That's a wrap. Thank you very much.
Good
Good
night.
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 Thank you. Good night.